So this is the Dell XPS 13, the 2020 model, the 9300. I've already done an unboxing and first impressions video, so if some of the details are missing from this, you can find it in that. The way this video is going to work is I took all the questions you guys asked about this laptop and created a review for you. The first thing you guys wanted to know was about the design. You know it's already light at 1.6 kilograms, so about 2.6 pounds, but you wanted to know how the edges of the laptop felt. Because these look very sharp, you wanted to know if they felt uncomfortable while you're typing on it. The short answer is they actually brushed it so it feels softer. It's not like the Lenovo C series where you have these very sharp edges and when you're typing for a long period, it kind of gets uncomfortable. They look sharp, but they're actually not. The next thing was the USB Type-C ports. These are Thunderbolt 3 ports, and because it's using an Ice Lake CPU from Intel, they were able to put them on opposite ends. By taking the controller and putting it closer or embedding it into the CPU, allows you to put Thunderbolt 3 anywhere you want on the laptop. The upside to this is that you don't have it all on one side, so you have two separate areas to plug in cables. The downfall to this is that Dell has decided to basically get rid of every other port. Then you asked me whether or not I can open it up with one hand, and the short answer is absolutely. Now, thankfully, Dell decided to allow you to get into the laptop super easy. Not much is upgradable, like you have this SSD, which gets really good read and write speeds that you can swap out for something bigger down the road. Unfortunately, the RAM is soldered onto the motherboard, so whatever model you choose, make sure it has enough RAM for you for future-proofing it, basically. Wi-Fi card is soldered onto the motherboard. It's using a killer Wi-Fi card, and I tested out the speeds on Wi-Fi 6. It's fast, but it's not as fast as non-killer cards. I find them to be a bit quicker with transfer speeds. Now, battery life is exceptional. 15 hours, 22 minutes, brightness at 30% on better battery mode, doing a multitude of office productivity with some idle time. Now, this display is full HD. It has amazing color accuracy and very good brightness. One of you guys asked whether or not it's touch and you can use a pen. The short answer is this model, the more baseline model, the i5, doesn't come with a touch display. They do have touch displays that you can purchase for extra money, but this one does not have one, which means you can't use a pen with it. Now, sound is coming out of two speakers on the bottom. I've already done a comparison to the MacBook Air, and the MacBook Air obviously sounded better, but this time, let's compare it to the HP Spectre X360 13, and you guys let me know which one sounds better. For performance, my unit is using the i5, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and the Intel UHD integrated GPU. It's not using Iris Plus, which is in the i7 model. And if you're a developer, you'll find that the performance on this laptop is to be very average. Like, it's not the fastest I've used. Like, for example, the MacBook Pro 13 i5 from last year can compile code faster, but it's definitely not the slowest. Photoshop users will love this. It runs just as well as the previous version, so you're not gonna see any performance increase there. But what's really interesting is gaming. Like, if you game with this laptop, you're not gonna get good frame rates, as you shouldn't, since this is an Ultrabook. Like, if you're playing CSGO, you can technically get 50 to 60. Overwatch, if you significantly reduce the settings, but everything else is not going to run well. However, if you hook it up to an external GPU, things get great. This laptop surprised me. No drop frames, everything ran nice and smooth. Shadow of the Tomb Raider went from 11 frames per second up to 55. Overwatch and Fortnite, same thing, over 100 frames per second at 1080p, full HD, and even CSGO got great frame rates. Usually when I use Ultrabooks connected to an external GPU, I always experience drop frames, but this guy, none whatsoever. And I think that's a lot to do with Intel's Ice Lake architecture. Having Thunderbolt 3 being connected directly to the CPU is a lot more efficient. No matter if I had on optimized or ultra performance, the keyboard deck was always around 50 to 53 degrees Celsius. I would have loved it to be a little bit lower. However, the fan or thermal management in this laptop still needs a little bit of tweaking. On optimized, CPU temperatures are nice and cool, like 60 to 65 degrees, but the CPU clock speeds are way too low, like 8 to 900 megahertz, which is a little bit on the low end. However, when you switch it to ultra performance, this thing starts to really shine. Like CPU temps would hover around 75 degrees Celsius with clock speeds, sustaining speeds of 1.5 gigahertz. However, there's a bit of a glitch with this laptop. Sometimes when you put it on ultra performance, it doesn't get activated properly, and what you end up is with a laptop going bananas, like CPU temperatures hitting 100 degrees Celsius, clock speeds being sustained at 2.5 gigahertz. The laptop would just get too hot. The performance was amazing, but the laptop would just get too hot, and you had to go back, switch to optimized again, bring it back into ultra performance for things to level out. So I didn't hear any coil whine, but here is a sound example from the fan so you can hear for yourself. I also noticed that the loudest the fans can get is around 48 to 50 decibels. This is as loud as a MacBook Pro 16 that's being pushed to its limits. And last up, you guys wanted to know how the typing experience was compared to the MacBook Air. Well, unfortunately, the MacBook Air uses the butterfly switches, so they're very, very shallow. And the keyboard on the MacBook Air is just much louder. I prefer the keys that this laptop is using. They're quieter, they have more of a tactile feel, and there's definitely more travel distance. So here's the bottom line. The Dell XPS 13 2020 is a fantastic Ultrabook. Dell really created a beautiful product with a gorgeous bezel-less display, pretty good audio, decent performance, and most importantly, a very portable laptop. I think this has the ability to be one of the best Ultrabooks if they can fix the thermal management. Fortunately, it can all be done by software because I feel like the ultra performance settings a little bit wonky right now, and Dell just has to fine tune it with a BIOS update. Anyways, that wraps this up. I hope I answered your questions. Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.